Heyo, Patrick.
How are we getting on, buddy? So I sent you an article there about Denmark's hardline and immigration.
Yes, you did. And I figured that's the one we would get handled today.
Because we've talked about it enough times on the podcast, so we might as well address the elephant in the room that we're all talking about.
Right. And this is going to be a Spotify episode as well. So if you got us on Spotify, you're going to get this one. And you're probably going to get this one, maybe before your YouTube. I don't know. We'll find out. Depends on what Spotify does in that process, but we'll get it figured out. But let's get Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and what she has to say. So this is an article by Christian Edwards entitled Denmark's Hardline Immigration Laws Caught Britain's Eye. Here's why. Oh, you're clever. You're clever with words, Christian. I like it. Very clever with words. So Denmark's biggest exports include Ozempic, Carlsberg, that's beer, and Legos. We all know what Legos are. But now European leaders...
Everyone's had Lego. Everyone's had Lego.
I've stepped on them too when I had kids. That's not fun. Right?
Yeah.
But now European leaders think it has something more valuable to sell. An immigration system tough and effective enough to neuter the hard right and keep mainstream parties in power. That's a strange thing. Why would you want to neuter the hard right? Because in the UK, when your buddy Two-Tier Kier there doesn't like what somebody says, he just throws out that they're hard right? It's one of those things where they don't actually define it. They just say, oh, no, you're hard right? So what do you have of evidentiary value that says they're hard right? Right? It just...
It seems to be a sentence that's thrown around quite a lot all across Europe at the moment. Anytime any party talks about the immigration issue.
Well, it seems like a format where you're othering somebody and then you don't have to pay attention to the thing that they're saying, right? Like, you're hard right, so I'm just not going to... It's the equivalent of saying, you've offended me, so now we stop talking? That's funny. I thought adult people were able to get past their little feelers getting hurt and then effectively communicate.
I think what's shaking up Europe quite a lot is parties who are traditionally not right-leaning are looking at the immigration issue now. You have like the Labour now in the UK looking at it. You have other centre-left or even extremely left-wing parties all across the European Union looking at the immigration issue now, more than traditional far-right parties. I think that's why people are trying to move with new labels or new sentences, I think, at the moment.
Well, I think if you get hit in the face with a wet fish enough times, you realize you've been hit in the face with a fish. When all of your people keep saying, we don't like this, we don't want this, why do you keep doing this? After a while, they're going to be like, you know what, we'll just vote in those people you don't like. And they're like, uh-oh, we're going to lose our handle on the levers of power. We better do something. And something should have been done a long time ago. Mette Frederiksen.
Yeah, I think it was something that was being building up for quite a long time all across Europe.
For sure.
Yeah.
Crime rates and all the other crazy things that are going on with those that fail to assimilate and then force parallel cultures is not the best, right?
No.
Like, you left the place where you were because it wasn't the greatest of places. Don't make my place like your place. It's like when Californians relocate all over the country and they want to bring these really weird policies to places that are like, hey, you can stop that now. We don't want those policies. We're better because we don't have them. You left there because it sucked.
Well, I will say one thing about the Danish policy. It does leave room for genuine war refugees, say from a country that's generally war-torn.
Oh, for sure.
But a caveat is they will reassess you every couple of years.
Right, and if the country that you're from is no longer embroiled in a civil war, we'll go ahead and ship you on back. Like, hey. Yeah,
well, they won't ship you back. There's a bigger process, but genuinely, yes, in a roundabout way.
Well, that's the boiled down version, right?
Yes.
The non-nuanced version. We'll ship you back if it's safe, right?
Yeah, well, I just break it down a bit of kind of Barney style there for people. But as always, I'll leave links down below for people.
For sure. You're good with the links. I like that.
Yeah.
Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, has achieved what many center-left governments of recent years have found impossible, getting re-elected. In an age when incumbents keep getting hammered at the ballot box, many in Europe are looking to the asylum policies of Frederiksen's Social Democrats, which won elections in 2019, 2022, and polls show they're on course to win again in 2026 as a model to imitate. So does that feel like it's manipulating the populace to get a thing? Because the people who are citizens of those places,
the Danish people themselves have always been open but conservative at the same time. It's probably the best way to describe most Danish people I've met personally.
Right, friendly, but don't just walk in my living room kind of deal, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Respect my space, but I'll be as friendly as long as you respect my space. Those kind of people.
Sounds a bit like Ireland. Very, very friendly. Yes. But you keep your thing over there, I'm gonna keep my thing over here, and we're culturally Irish. Yeah. I'd stop doing the thing. So, all right. So Britain's Labour government, which has been hounded by the populist Reform UK party, that's Nigel Farage's crew, right?
Yeah.
Reform UK. Okay. Over its struggle to control illegal immigration, has been so impressed by the Danish model that it sent officials to find out how the system works. Ooh, they could talk to that Scottish DEI chick. Maybe she would know something about that.
Yeah, Scotland has their own parliament.
Right.
Yeah. I think people outside of outside the British Isles don't realise that Wales, the United Kingdom's made up of 3 parts: England, Wales, and Scotland. And Northern Ireland.
Don't forget Northern Ireland.
Mainland yeah. But everyone has their own parliament as well. Answers to London.
Got it.
It's probably the easiest way to break it down for people.
Right.
Outside of. Yeah. Probably, especially for our near neck of the woods, as they say.
Yeah. We don't know much about it. And again, we're super isolated. So a lot of times we're like...
Yeah, that kind of comes across sometimes when you're researching these stories.
That doesn't affect my ability to get a Whopper, so I don't give a good god darn it. I'm going to get my Whopper and these onion rings and this strawberry milkshake. I'll be all right.
It is funny, actually, when I pull up some of these news articles, and you always know when they're written by a European, and you'll always know them when they're written by from an American journalist, because they get some things wildly wrong.
Right.
Europe.
Well, sometimes we're a bit of a hayseed out here. We just need more cowbell, right? So, announcing a radical overhaul, underlined and in bold, radical overhaul of Britain's asylum system on Monday, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, said while Britain had held rigidly to the old model, other countries have tightened theirs. She singled out Denmark as a poster child. But that still doesn't pay heed to those who were constituents who say, I don't want this. And they have said since, was it right after Margaret Thatcher got out, they said, we don't want this, we don't want this. Continually, we don't want this. And you keep doing it, right?
Well, you have to remember, Labour's only recently been in government. Before that, it was the Tories for a long period of time. And I think it was one of those policies where it was all going well and good until there's a massive influx of people all of a sudden, all across Europe in the last 2+ years. It's kind of hit, by the way, not just the UK, but all across the European Union.
Right.
It's been hit by just a wave of people.
So,
and I think that's what broke a lot of our systems, including our own system in Ireland.
Right, but Mahmood isn't citing what the old, like the specific treaties or the specific things that were involved in the old model.
By the way, the old model was brilliant if there was 10, 15,000 people per year trickling in. Every system could handle that.
Oh, yeah.
But when you have hundreds of thousands of people hitting you in 1 year, there's no system in the old system was never going to work for that influx of people.
Right. And we even looked at it when we reviewed that Stephen Crowder video, like the numbers, like here are the numbers of people that are coming in and here's what they're costing you.
Yes.
Right. And then that just understanding that the top 1% in most places pay about 50% of the taxes. Right. So they're going to be paying a little bit more, but the middle class folks and the lower middle class folks are just going to get hammered by that because the government's going to have to find that money, and they will find it, and they will come get you, or they'll get your things.
The difference is between Ireland and England is we can rely on the European Union funds to kind of be able to, make up the shortfall for our asylum system, which they are doing. They're kind of paying for most of it, like the international protection system and so on in Ireland.
Right.
It's mostly funded by the European Union, just because we financially can't afford it. Let's be honest.
Well, they've given you a dictate.
No, the international protection is under the international law. We have 2 different migrations going on in Ireland at the moment.
Okay.
But the problem, one is funded by us, one is funded by the European Union. The international protection system is funded by the European Union and the UN.
Okay.
And other asylum seekers then are funded by ourselves, like Ukrainian,
Got
and
it.
so on.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but the problem is with the United Kingdom is they're outside the European Union, so they're pretty much on their own financially dealing with all this.
Right, but still someone is paying for it, right?
Oh yeah, the problem with the UK is they are paying for it all on their own, which is putting a massive strain on their public purse.
Oh, for sure,
it's costing them an absolute fortune.
Right.
And
we went over the numbers, and it's bad.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially because their economy was already struggling ever since Brexit.
Right.
This has just added more fuel to fire over there at the moment. It's not looking good for the UK.
Right, but it also is a situation where you have people who are not assimilating. They're choosing to go outside, create parallel societies, functionally no-go zones, right? And then they have rules that apply to those who are immigrants that don't apply to the populace as it stands, right? So they're getting a lot of special dispensation so they can continue the ways that will cause that, like cousin marriage and a lot of other those allowable things.
Yeah, the problem with cousin marriage is you'll see it a lot in especially around the Roma tribes, as they say, and around
the Irish travelers, right?
Travelers in Ireland and so on. Is cousin marriage is a bad idea, and it should never be allowed under any law. In the story, it should be banned across Europe. That's my firm stance, because it's genetically wise, it never has a good outcome. By the way.
And it forces ties that are clannish as opposed to those people expanding.
And also it causes other genetic diseases and so on, and learning disabilities. And
for sure.
It's just not good overall for their community or our community.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
It's not good for either side. No.
All right. The old model referenced by Mahmoud is a creature of Europe's post-war milieu. The United Nations Refugee Convention of 1951 applied only to Europe and sought to settle wartime refugees, primarily Jews who survived the Holocaust, ethnic Germans expelled from Eastern Europe, and dissidents fleeing Soviet regimes. The treaty was expanded in 1967 to apply universally, in part to atone for colonialism. I don't understand that. Why was it to atone for colonialism?
This is around the time India and Pakistan were created. You have to remember, after World War II, Queen said the late 40s all the way up to the 80s, there were still a lot of former colonial colonies were pretty much on their knees after World War II. They were pretty much held down by a lot of the colonial powers like France, Britain, and so on.
Right.
And they're suddenly trying to get on their feet on their own as a country in a modern world where they were kept away from the modern world for so long. They were kept down by their colonial powers. So this was a part of our way of helping them, say, to get education, say, in Europe, and then bringing it back, which a lot of Indians did, by the way. They came over. They came to Ireland, the UK, they came all over Europe. They learned their engineering and so on, and brought it back to India. It worked out well for them, if you know, when they had a treaty there for a long time.
Right.
That's what these treaties are about, by the way.
Makes sense.
It was, as I said, it was a great idea at the time, but it had probably been ratified since the 1960s.
Yeah, probably.
Somebody should have kind of maybe taken out of the drawer and had a quick look at it every now and again.
Little peek. Just make sure that the brown envelope next to it wasn't there. Oh, no brown envelope. I guess we're not doing it this year. All right, here we go. Yeah. But the proliferation of conflict and climate disasters, I don't know what climate disasters they're talking about. I would actually need
basically temperatures going up around some African regions, so on. You know, rising flood waters. You see it all on the news every day, as they say.
Right, but I was watching Randall Carlson, who talks about the Younger Dryas and all those things. The climate disaster, it doesn't seem to be anything other than the Earth is doing its thing that the Earth does, right? It's not a disaster as it's part of the design, right? It's a feature, not a bug. And it is not as excessive as some people are saying. Like,
I've seen those news stories, all right.
Have you heard of a fellow named Bill Gates? Also, you've heard of Bill Gates, right?
Okay.
Bill Gates, part of his foundation was that there was all these climate disasters. Just recently pulled back from that and said, oh, maybe it's not so bad. It seems like it's a popularity contest for concepts that can get you NGOs, aid money, and that kind of stuff, right? That's what it feels like. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that's what it feels like. It's no longer paying
By the way,
virtue
I do
signaling
agree. I
dividends.
do agree with you in some ways
Mhm.
that some people are taking advantage of the whole climate change to line their own pockets. That's just human nature.
Right. Well, but
But when
what
you
they're
look at the
saying is
science
that
behind, but if you look at the science behind it,
Mhm.
you see temperatures going up and up and up and up. Even when I go out and do when I go out and do my own garden, I can see the change in my own weather patterns in my short life.
Right. So when I grew up,
trying to deny something I can visually see with my own two eyes is very hard to buy into the other.
Right, I understand
stories.
that, but that's an anecdotal thing, right? I see this in my little spot in Ireland, right? I see some of the same things in California. When I grew up, every winter was super, super rainy. Super rainy.
Yeah.
Like California in the wintertime, just rain, right? And then we had a drought for like 20 years, right? But that's just a natural procession of how those things work. That's just the pattern of weather, right? So, all right, let's get back to this.
Yeah, but also what climate disasters also this title here covers is the over farming of some parts of the world, which the old way of farming was you farm 1 acre, leave it fallow the next.
Right.
Farm it, fallow. But the problem with commercial farming is the land is constantly being used to the point where it literally becomes unusable after a couple of decades.
Right. That makes sense.
Which is also under this title.
Understood. All right. But the proliferation of conflict and climate disasters, coupled with cheap travel, rising rates of literacy, and the ease of online communication has put an immense strain on the post-war architecture of asylum. It used to be difficult to get to Ireland. It used to be difficult to get to the middle of the United States. It used to be difficult to get to Europe, right? Like, you had to, there's some walking involved, right? Like, you had to really put some effort into it. Now you can just hop on a plane and go to a place and you're there, right? So
if you think about it, it costs less than €1,000 to fly nearly well over halfway across the globe.
Yeah, anywhere, right? If I'm in Mumbai today, I can be in Las Vegas, Nevada tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And
it doesn't cost you that much either.
No, it's not that bad at all, especially because Las Vegas subsidizes it. But man, they want your money. At the end of last year, 123 million people worldwide were forcibly displaced, according to the UN, up from about 44 million people in 2010. Our asylum system was not designed to cope with this, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said bluntly on Monday. So there's another thing. They're not talking about, they're not telling you that a lot of these moves were internal in the country that they were in. Like China's really good about that with the Uyghurs and some other people, right? Oh, and there's that picture that we keep seeing too of the boats.
Yeah, that's the same picture that's been around. Where did I say this is from, by the way? The migrants waiting to board a small boat crossing the English Channel, northern France, on September 19th. Do you know what the funny thing about this is?
They don't have the year.
This is the same picture I shot literally 2 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I don't mind if they reuse pictures. They should just say they're reusing pictures, by the way. Just saying.
Well, they didn't put the year on it, right? Which is like, it happened on June 3rd.
Yeah, it could have been September 19th. Yeah. 10 years ago. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Britain is now poised to embark on a policy route first chartered by Denmark a decade ago. In 2015, Europe received its most requests for asylum in a single year since World War II, as civil war in Syria and Libya helped spur around 1.3 million people to travel to the region, mostly from the Middle East. When Germany's Chancellor, Angela Merkel, famously said, "Wir schaffen das," we can do it, kind of, urging Germans to welcome in refugees, Denmark took a different approach. It's not
that
working.
Came back and bit Germany in the back, and that kind of bit Germany in the backside, as they would say.
Yeah. Germany's not happy with it. Okay.
No, because I've dealt with Syrian refugees actually in Ireland, and for the most part, they're pretty nice people, but very stuck in their ways. If people understand what I mean by that,
right? They don't want to
assimilate. Traditional.
Yeah. So,
well, don't get me wrong. They're probably, the Syrians are probably more pleasant than most I've dealt with, but they're still very traditional, if people know what I mean.
For sure. Under Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Fredriksen's predecessor as prime minister, who then led the center-right Venstre Party, Denmark aimed to reduce the number of asylum seekers, improve integration, and swiftly deport those who arrived illegally. That just seems like the right way to do it. You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Go back. Go.
That's it.
Get on it. Get
Yeah.
on out of here.
No, the Danish are kind of very straightforward. Is it black or white, and that's it. That's the type of people they are, to be honest.
All right. Rasmussen, who is now the foreign minister, interesting. He didn't lose his job in government when he lost prime minister. He just went somewhere else.
Yeah, they kind of sideways promotion.
First made refugee status temporary, not permanent. Now that just makes sense, right? Like your refugee status is temporary. You're not permanently a refugee, right? Before 2015, refugees could stay in Denmark for 5 years, after which their residence permits would automatically become permanent. Now, that's a bad idea to not re-review. Like you said, you got to pull the thing out of the drawer and look at it, make sure it's still good, right?
Yeah.
Now, residence permits last for 1 to 2 years, and refugees must wait for 8 years before they can apply for permanent status. Even then, it's not guaranteed. Refugees must be fluent in Danish and have held full-time jobs for several years. I don't see why this is a difficult bar. Why is this a difficult bar?
It's not.
Okay. So if you want to move to a place, you need to learn the language of the place and contribute, right?
When in Rome, do as Rome.
For sure.
It's been around. That saying's been around for a couple of thousand years, but you know.
Well, it makes sense. Contribute.
Yes.
Contribute. Learn the language and contribute. Be a part of the society. Assimilate, right?
Yeah.
Denmark has also made it harder for refugees to be joined by family members. And this is a little bit unclear, and I don't understand where they're going with this. It says both must be aged 24 and above and have passed a Danish language test. Okay. So that means if you bring family in, they must also speak
they're talking
Danish.
about... I actually looked this up. This refers to married couples. So say if the husband is here, say in Denmark, and he wants to bring his wife and kids over, this is the bar they have to follow.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. The refugee must not have claimed government benefits for the past 3 years, and they must also put up a financial guarantee.
Yes.
Well, if you've learned the language and you have a job and then you budget, you can do this. But I don't know the amount of money is. I don't know how much.
No, the financial guarantee is you have to say if there's a gentleman, the way I looked it up online on the Danish government website is. By the way, which had to be translated by Google, so let's bear that in mind as well.
Let's hope you didn't get screwed by Meta. All right, let's do it. What did
actually,
they say?
Google translation is usually pretty good. So, if a husband is in Denmark and he wants to bring his wife and dependents over, this is the bar he has to follow. And financial guarantee is he has to be able to support his family wholly and financially in Denmark. So he can't just bring over the wife and she starts signing on with the kids. He has to be able to financially support his entire unit.
Got it. That makes sense. All right. So Michaela Plante Ben-Dixon, head of the refugee advisory group, Refugees Welcome Denmark, said removing the assumption that refugee status will become permanent has been detrimental to integration. Okay. Well, if you're not contributing and you haven't met the bar, they have to check to make sure you've met the bar, right? If you've met the expectation, then yes. But if you haven't met the expectation, it doesn't get to be automatic.
No, this is a lot of what they're not asking for the sun, moon, and stars here. They're just asking if you're coming here, learn our language, contribute to our society. And if you want to bring your family over, they also have to contribute to our society.
Or you have to make enough to ensure that you can support that whole unit, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. Attachment to the labor market, learning the language, and understanding the society, these are very important things for successful integration, Ben-Dixon told CNN. She feared the tightened requirements had set the bar too high for many new arrivals, discouraging some from trying at all. Yes, that's the point. That is exactly the point.
That's why these laws were brought in. Sorry.
So she just said the law is working
when I read this article, it was very much. I started laughing at that part, going, "This is the whole point of these laws: is to stop people coming over who are not able to integrate."
Right. So what she said is the law is working as intended, and I'm emotionally attached to it not doing what I think it should do.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure. It seems a bit hysterical. All right. And this is particular for older people with lower levels of education. They don't contribute to the society, which means they're an economic migrant. They're not coming over to be part of the society. They're coming over to excoriate resources and take from the people, which is not cool. All right. It creates feelings of hopelessness. I've met so many refugees who say, no matter what I do, it's never good enough. I have done everything they require of me, and still it's not enough, she said. So the people who say, I've met the bar, the governmental agencies are saying, no, you have not met the bar. So that's a failure to comprehend the assignment. I don't understand the assignment. That's what's going on.
Well, by the way, we're not even living in Denmark, and we can understand what they're asking.
Right. Oh,
the bar, yes, is the bar high? Yes, it is. But it's not if you really want to stay in a country and live and integrate and make your life in a country. This is the bar everyone would have to cross, no matter where they immigrate to.
For sure. All right. So this gets into some of the more difficult portions of how this is going. And there's a lot of terminology that's going to be used here that's going to feel very awkward, because these are things that have been flipped in the past to do bad things. So but just so you guys understand, Denmark's doing the best they can, but they're having a problem with people who aren't integrating or assimilating. So here we go. Denmark has also been criticized for its policy on ghettos, now termed parallel societies, which allows the state to sell off or demolish housing estates where more than 50% of the residents are from non-Western backgrounds. So this harkens back to some very bad things that happened somewhere in Europe in the 40s.
Yeah, we're talking about 1930s, 1940s Germany is what we're saying. And I understand the parallels that people are saying. It did, because this did genuinely happen in Germany and across Italy and Hungary and so on. You have to remember, during World War II, or before World War II, I should say, Germany wasn't the only very far right country in Europe. We have to admit that as in Europe ourselves.
Right.
And a lot of German policies, what we classify as German policies, were very much Italian policies and Hungarian and Czech and so on.
Right.
And I understand in Europe this is a very sensitive issue, but Denmark has been struggling for a long time with ghettos.
Right. Well, and Sweden's even worse off than they are, actually.
And by the way, Sweden, is doing the same policy that Denmark is doing right now.
For sure.
They're just, you know what? They're just going to, they're just knocking a lot of places. Because one, it cleans up the area. And in more ways than one, you could say. It breaks up the whole tribe, you could say, that's taken over that entire area. Spread them all across the place. Some people say you're spreading the problems all over. You're spreading the problem farther, but something has to be done. You know what I mean? Just to break up.
Right. Sometimes you got to lance that boil. You got to be like, hey, this is not good.
Unfortunately, unless people have another idea around this, that this is probably the only way that Denmark and other countries can do it.
Right. Successive Danish governments have worried about poor levels of integration in certain neighborhoods. In 2004, then Prime Minister Anders Fogh Rasmussen, same last name, warned of areas where the men are unemployed.
By the way, that's probably just a common name in Denmark.
I know.
Or maybe it could be second cousin. Who knows?
Warned of areas where the men are unemployed, the women are isolated, and the families speak only the language of their home country. Right. That's an absolute failure to assimilate. A charitable interpretation of the ghetto law introduced in 2018 is that it supports integration by encouraging people from different backgrounds to live together. They don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to do that.
No.
In your country, you had a problem with two Christian sects that didn't want to get along, right?
Oh, you're talking about, Northern Ireland, yes.
Yeah, they
and even though I think in Ireland at the moment, and I know people are going to say in the comments, probably on YouTube, that we're too soft on immigration. But what people don't understand, and I was looking at the news headlines, is we are talking about bringing these laws in as well.
Right. Well, if you look
at the table,
there wasn't a real assimilation problem. Both of those Christian sects were raised in the same areas, in the same neighborhoods. They were homogenous. They spoke the same language. right? It's way easier with a homogenous society to integrate than to take someone who has what is apparently a wildly different cultural view of how things are supposed to be, and then a homogenous society, right? So, for example, there is in Norway, their incarceration system functions exceptionally well because it's homogenous. When other places attempt to import that style of prison systems functionally, right, it doesn't work because those who are incarcerated are not homogenous, right? They have wildly different cultural views.
The Norwegian criminal system, I saw a documentary about that. And also it promotes education, life skills outside of prison and so on, probably more than any other systems across the Western world.
Right, but that's because
that's why their prison system works so well. It actually tries to give them hope outside of prison, which seems to work.
It does, but there's a cultural vision that's based on how that country functions, right? It's an understood cultural norm. You want to do better. Oh yeah, for sure I want to. Well then, hey, let's get you the things to do better. In other places where they try and do that in their penal system, it doesn't function because culturally they're different, or they just don't want to do it. Like, I'm just going to do my time.
But you also have to remember the prison officers in Norway are very heavily trained.
Yes.
They're trained in social work, psychology. They're properly trained guys. They're not Jimmy off the road who gets a couple of weeks of training. Now he's a prison officer.
Right.
And he has to lock a guy down for 23 hours a day, which, by the way, is going to drive anyone up the walls.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Right. But it's only the highest level of those who violate social mores and become incarcerated that they're going to be 23 and once. Right. That's
I understand that. But I'm just saying that there's no easy way to do in a prison system. And I do agree with the point where you're bringing other people from outside of the host country into that prison system.
Yes.
Where it causes other issues. You are right.
Right. But not everyone is convinced. In February, a senior advisor to the EU's top court said the policy amounts to discrimination based on ethnic origin. No, it's based on a lack of assimilation. If I make some wild decision, I have agency. I understand there's consequences, right? But if you get someone in the system that does a thing where they're unaware of the consequences because their culture says you can do this thing, but when they get to another place, a G20 country, some westernized country, your country,
but you'll have to remember, but Denmark, Ireland are in a very unique position. We can ignore EU laws. We're one of 3 countries, Ireland and Denmark. I'm trying to think of, it'll come to me, but we can ignore EU laws. When we signed up to the European Council at the time, like Denmark, that was one of the conditions we had, same as Denmark.
Right.
So when I hear people in Ireland saying, "Oh, we're having to follow EU laws," I said, "No, we don't." Everyone's going, "Oh, well, Poland has to do it." No, I said, we're part of a very unique club where we can just turn around and say to EU, "No, we're not following it." That's it.
Right, but it seems like other countries are not allowed to do that. They must follow those edicts.
But that's part of their treaty with the European Union, not part of ours or Denmark. That's where Denmark has gone full steam ahead. Same as, Hungary. That's just the other country I was trying to think of. We can go full steam ahead and say, look, these are the laws we're bringing in, and that's
Poland
it.
says no, but they get fined.
Yes, but that's part of their treaty. That was the bargain they made with the EU.
I understand that, but if you say my country is having this problem and you're dictating rules to me that don't apply because we can't function.
But Poland can all. Well, when we talk about fines, I think a lot of people don't quite understand how the Europe works. Yes, can they fine another country for not following EU laws? Most of the times they'll send an angry letter threatening fines. And for the most part, they don't really follow through. It's like the federal government of the United States. Every now and again, they give out to California for the legalization, for instance, of marijuana.
Right.
They send angry letters, threaten fines and blah. But nothing really happens. California will carry on and do what it's doing.
Right.
It's something very similar to EU. So Denmark has brought in these laws since, and it's just carrying on.
For sure.
That's it.
Other laws have been criticized by human rights groups under the so-called jewelry law. Authorities can seize assets worth over 10,000 Danish krona, about $1,500, to help cover the cost of asylum support. Okay, so they can go take your things. So my question is why have you generated so many things? Right?
$1,500.
No, that's not much, is it?
Not much, if you think about it. If you got, say, bits of jewelry, your grandmother's ring or whatever, that could be it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the measure was only applied 17 times over its first 6 years, but still has dark historical resonance, with some drawing comparison to confiscation of valuables by the Nazi regime. I can see the fear there. I understand that. Ooh, here's a great expression: performative cruelty. Okay. You need to learn Danish and get a job. That's cruelty. No, it's not cruelty. Learn the language of the place where you live. You dispute. Go ahead.
But if we look at the numbers later on, it is working.
Sometimes when something works, you don't mess with it. You dispute that Denmark's policies have achieved their stated aim. In 2014, Denmark granted refugee status to 6,031 people. By 2019, that figure had dropped to 1,737. Now, these are small numbers. While Denmark grants far more residence permits today than it did 30 years ago, the vast majority of these go to students and workers, not refugees. Of the 99,811 residence permits Denmark granted last year, just 859 went to asylum seekers, less than 1%.
That's a very small number compared to Ireland.
It's a very small number compared to the United States. We had 10 to 15,000 crossing our borders a day. Denmark in recent decades has shown that it is politically and practically feasible to transition to a system of overall higher migration and more employment and education-intensive immigration, according to a report last month from Bruegel, a Brussels-based economic think tank. So Brussels is telling them that they can, and Denmark is like, we're not. Over time, this
by the way, no. Actually, I think you misread that. Brussels, I think your Brussels think tank is agreeing with them.
No, what it's saying is it's politically and practically feasible to transition to a system of overall higher migration. What they're saying is you can take more people. And they're like, yeah, great, we'll take more people if they learn the language, get a job, and assimilate. Of course we will. But the problem is you're just saying you can do it. And they agree. But if they don't want to assimilate, then they can't be forced to say, yes, we'll take more and more and more and more and more. Because we see how that's working in the UK and Ireland and the US. It's not working. It's
not working because the problem is it probably worked years ago when we needed unskilled labor. But we don't need unskilled labor in Western Europe anymore. As such. A lot of heavy manufacturing is not done, for the most part, in Europe. So we don't need unskilled, uneducated workers like in the numbers that we needed long ago.
Right.
With modern technology and so on. And I think that's the problem with an awful lot of people coming from Middle East and so on, is a lot of them are not educated, no matter what our government says, by the way, in Ireland. And down to the Irish people here, where we're promised doctors and nurses and engineers.
And then you got people that cost you 750,000 euro over their lifetime and their wife and their children.
I think anyone living in Ireland has realised none of these people will ever be a doctor or an engineer or a nurse. I'll put that way. Right. No, it's not in that ballpark.
So the next one is here, look at this, it works. Over time, this has deterred refugees from seeking asylum in Denmark. Britain's Home Office said Denmark's policies had reduced asylum claims to a 40-year low and resulted in the removal of 95% of those claims, those whose claims are rejected. In 2024, there were 4 new asylum claims per 10,000 people in Denmark compared to 16 per 10,000 in Britain and 20 per 20,000 for the European Union as a whole.
Yeah, but by the way, the one thing I will say about these numbers, I'm going to redo these numbers, by the way. In 2024, there was 4 asylum seekers per 10,000 people in Denmark compared to 16 in Britain. Now, it says 20 per 20,000, so that is 10 per 10,000.
Right.
Yeah. So the way they put that was slightly misleading by this report.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So
the European Union's got a lesser per 10,000 than Britain. Britain's got the highest number.
Right.
It's got 16. We have only got 10 per 10,000. Still pretty high, but
Oh, yeah.
For clarity's sake, let's kind of not fiddle with the numbers like this journalist has done, by the way.
Right. Although the Danish model has won Social Democrats' praise abroad, some are growing disillusioned at home. In local elections Tuesday, Fredriksen's party lost control of Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark, for the first time in more than a century. While much of the discontent is over the capital's high housing costs, analysts say the party's hardline stance on immigration has alienated its more progressive urban base, right? It just makes sense. When the Danish model can be imported wholesale by other governments remains to be seen. Whether Britain plans to quadruple the wait for permanent settlement from 5 years to 20, much longer than the 8-year wait for refugees in Denmark. Refugee status will be reviewed every 2.5 years. Makes sense. Pull it out of the drawer.
Yeah.
If their home country is deemed to have become safe during that time, they will be deported. Makes sense.
Yeah. Very similar to Denmark. Much carbon copy in their system.
Those seeking asylum could also be stripped of assets, including jewelry, to cover their costs for their accommodation. That seems a little strange. There's something wrong there.
They're targeting the Roma with these laws, because the Roma traditionally they keep their wealth mobile, if people understand. By if you ever look up a picture of Roma, you see them with a lot of gold jewelry, and that's how they transport their wealth, you could say.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to have lots and lots of whatever the local currency is. You can just trade for it.
But in this case, that jewelry will be taken off them.
Right. Well, then that really restricts their ability to move around as well. Like, they're going to get forced to stick in a place. And that's what they did in Russia. Didn't they do that, where they gave the Roma farms and lots of other stuff and tried to get them to not move around? And some of them stayed.
Yeah, the Roma just took the money and left Russia.
Yeah, see ya.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Deuces, bro, we're out.
Thanks for the money. We'll see you next week sometime.
We'll come back in about 4 years.
I've dealt with the Roma quite a lot in Ireland, and to be honest,
yeah.
Oh wow, interesting people.
Eye-opening
experience. They will literally
right?
take out your head. Yeah, they literally take out your head.
Ben Dixon warned that the new 20-year path to permanent settlement would destroy refugees' sense of future and make them feel like they are second-class citizens forever. That doesn't make sense. It's one of those things where here are the goalposts. We're not going to move them. This is the deal, right? And over the 20 years, your kids, should they decide to learn Danish and assimilate and get a job, then there isn't a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
But not being smart, but we all have a system in place. If you work in a country constantly, there is a legal path for you to become a citizen of that country.
Oh, for sure.
Not every country has that path.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why people are getting confused by it. Well, say if I immigrated to the United States and I wanted to become a United States citizen, there's a legal way for me to do that.
Yeah.
No matter where I am from the world. I apply for a work permit. I get a work visa. I get granted. Go to the United States, work there. And after so many years, it depends on which state you go to, I figured out. But eventually you can apply for citizenship in the United States perfectly legal.
Right. Because
yes, it doesn't cost you money. It does cost a lot of money, but there is a legal way of doing it.
So what you're saying is you do work, you contribute, you assimilate, and then you get citizenship in that order.
Pretty much. That's the way it works across 90% of the Western world.
That's crazy that's how that works.
And I don't understand why people are getting so upset with this particular issue. I don't understand it. It's common sense laws.
I don't get why people are up in arms. Anyway, so integration fails when you give young people the feeling that they don't belong. That's where you see gangs and crime in areas where people have their own rules. Yeah, parallel societies because people are failing to assimilate. It's pretty simple to see, and I don't know why this person has decided. Whoever Ben Dixon's lawyer.
But I can understand where he's saying here about young people because I work with young people. But I will say, if you do this properly and say to the young people, not just the young person, but to their family, if you work for this many years, this is the path to get citizenship in this country for you and your family.
Yeah, for
sure. You make it a very clear set of rules, very clear set of goalposts. That's what you aim for. Now, if these young people fall into criminality and so on, just make it very clear to them is, once you leave prison
you're gone.
And you return 18, we are going to deport you out of this country, family or no family.
Yeah, you're gone. Yeah. You violated the rules. You've committed
You'll be
felony.
very surprised how quick crime will drop then.
Right, because there's actual consequences, right?
Oh, yeah.
Agency is enacted. All right. Don't have a lot to go. Let's get popping. That's because they don't feel like they're part of society. Well, learn the language, get a job. A rule like this would make that feeling much, much stronger. The you need to get a job and assimilate rule that seems to be functional. That was Ben Dixon. All right. Many UK Labour politicians would agree, although Starmer, like Fredrickson, insists that a more stringent asylum system is compatible with the progressive values of compassion and tolerance. Others say the proposals are needlessly cruel and will not have the desired effect. The problem is they'll have exactly the desired effect, but people will get their feelers hurt, and people don't want other people's feelings to get hurt.
At the end of the day, the United Kingdom, ourselves in the EU and everywhere else, we're all dealing with a massive issue. We're all talking about a big, massive elephant in the room that's affected all our countries,
100%,
all across the G20. Mm-hmm. And there's no easy way there, and there's probably no nice way of doing this. There probably isn't. And I know people are struggling with the idea of finding a compassionate way of dealing with the immigration issue.
Right, but the people who are coming to these countries are failing. They are failing wholesale and costing.
Well, what I'm talking about is people like this who are trying to find a compassionate way of dealing with a very large issue. There is no compassionate way, unfortunately. There's no easy way of dealing with this. Is the Danish model strict? Yes, but rightfully so. It has to be.
All right. We got 2 paragraphs left, so let's pop through. Plans to leave refugees in a state of perpetual uncertainty about where and if they can rebuild their lives are not just performative cruelty, they are counterproductive to integration and the economy. Stella Creasy, a Labour MP, said Monday. Alf Dubs, a Labour member of the House of Lords who came to Britain on the Kindertransport in 1939, fleeing the persecution of Jews in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia, told the BBC that he was depressed by Labour's hardline turn and called the new measures a shabby thing. Now, while I understand that, this isn't performative cruelty. This is assimilate appropriately, learn the language, get a job, contribute. This is not rocket surgery. This should be readily apparent to these folks.
I think I can understand, especially if this gentleman is coming from that time period. And I understand the language that Labour and UKIP and other parties are going with at the moment. It does sound very much like 1930s politics in certain parts. But we're not talking about a massive roundup in the morning. What we're talking about is a slow process for people to eventually become citizens of the country.
Right. A policy change where there's clear guideposts as to which direction you go and how you achieve the goal. And again, get a job,
but unfortunately,
assimilate,
but unfortunately, unfortunately, people are not going to. I can understand, especially the Labour Party is very far left, that there's no easy way of doing it. Look at the example on the United States at the moment. We have protests everywhere against ICE and so on. This is a problem that had to be solved, and there's no easy way of doing it. And unfortunately,
for sure,
it's got so big that is it heavy-handed? Yes, but I can see why it's heavy-handed because they're under pressure themselves.
Oh, for sure.
With the resources they have,
That's why the executive branch is who it is, and it's this individual said I will perform this task, and doing apparently the best they can to do it.
Yeah, with the as they say, with the tools they have at the moment, and I think Europe at the moment, including the United Kingdom and ourselves here and other countries across Europe, we're trying to deal with a massive issue. We're probably dealing with roughly the same numbers of illegal immigrants that combined, say, across the European Union.
Yeah, per capita, about the same. Per capita, it's about the same.
We're dealing roughly, because people seem to forget that there's over 550 million of us compared to 340 odd million Americans.
Right.
We have larger illegal immigration issues across Europe, by the way, as a whole, numbers-wise. So we're dealing with larger numbers, and we have to start coming up with some sort of policy.
For sure. There's got to be a policy in place,
Yeah, unfortunately, there is no easy or soft way of doing this.
No easy fix. No easy fix at all.
No.
All right, you got anything else to add in there, Patrick, or are we good?
No, I think I kind of waffled on a bit there.
You kept talking. I was like, oh, this man's got things to say. I like it. All right, for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Ring the bell, like, subscribe, and help us beat the algorithm. We are out.